Hello, I'm Miss Blake from Barstow Community College. I'm here with my students and we're getting ready to perform a basic 90-degree haircut. It's called the uniform layered haircut, and so I started by sectioning it off in four. I did three on top, and then I did one in the back, and then I took a ½ inch all the way around the perimeter to establish the length. So I'm gonna get started with this haircut. And this doll, she just wants a trim. So I'm gonna go ahead and start in the back, and same thing, I'm gonna do my 0 first. So a section in 5, and then I'm gonna establish the guideline around the perimeter. We're just taking about a ½ inch to an inch off. It's, like I said, 5.5 here, 5.5 here, so I'm gonna make it 5 inches, and then I'm gonna connect it. So I'm gonna start in the back. Let me move this. Okay, can't really see. Here we go. Well, I'm gonna move her up just a bit, and then, okay, there we go. And, okay, so I'm starting in the back, and taking about a ½ inch off. So I'm gonna do my 0. Normally I would be standing directly behind my client, but for the sake of the video so everyone can see, I'm gonna stand to the side. But it would normally look like this. And then it would be, I'd be standing directly in front of the section that I'm cutting, and then straight down. Looks crooked. Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna start in the center. Can you guys see okay? You guys know how to do this already anyways. So I'm taking about a ½ inch, standing in front of the section that I'm cutting, standing behind my client in front of the section that I'm cutting, center left, back to the right. Okay, remember not to cut past the second knuckle, and then going around the perimeter first. So I'm gonna get it all ready, establish the length. She just needs a trim today, so that's all she's getting, just a little trimmy. Turn her around towards me. Can you guys see? Just take a little bit in the front, make my guideline. I'm gonna bring it down, take about a ½ inch off, and then I'm gonna go around her perimeter. Make sure when you go around the front that you hold your fingers vertical. And then down and vertical. Pay attention, don't move the hair, don't elevate the hair when you're going around the face, because you want to visualize where it's going to land when you're done. Okay, so see how I'm holding my fingers vertical? And I'm at the same time, I'm only doing the hair before the ears. Okay, so I established her guideline. I took a ½ inch off all the way around. So hopefully this works if I stand behind her so you guys can see. Okay, so I'm gonna take down my next inch subparting, and I am going to prepare my haircut at a 0. And you don't have to. This is just my personal preference. You can go through and just start your haircut, but I'm trying to keep it very basic. So center, left. Make sure you can see your guideline. If you can't see your guideline, you have too much hair, so then you have to resection and repart. Center left, back to the right. I'm gonna take down my next subsection, and actually I could pull it all down. Her hair's not too thick, so if it's thick, you need to take less subpartings. If it's thin, you can take more subpartings. So if they have thick hair, you could only take up to a ½ inch subpartings. If they have thin hair, you can take up to about an inch subpartings. So center left, back to the right. So she's all prepared. Okay, so now you can do the side. If I want, just bring it down. Just a little bit. Remember, don't cut past your second knuckle. It's a safety issue. You don't want to have to stop and clean up blood. Oh my gosh. I'm like, don't talk. That'd be me. Okay, sorry. All right. It's just blood spill. We don't have time for blood spills. Okay, so I prepared it at a 0. Okay, so now I am gonna go to my front. See where you guys can see that. And I'm gonna do what I taught you guys. I'm gonna do the 180, but I'm only doing the 180 on the top and the sides. Okay, so you guys need to remember that, okay? And the reason why I'm doing the 180 on the top and the sides is because I'm preparing this hair for a 90-degree haircut. So then when you go back around to do your 90, you have a lot less hair to deal with on the sides. Okay, so I'm gonna take out my clip and I'm gonna comb this forward and get ready to do my 180 on my top and my sides. So I'm gonna start in the center. I'm gonna take a 1/2 inch to 1 inch subparting. I'm gonna bring it straight up. I'm gonna find a guide. So there's my guide where my fingers are, right there. And so I'm gonna take that about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch off. Whoops, oh, don't say oops when you're cutting someone's hair. Okay, let's try that again, straight up. Okay, there you go. So I'm just gonna cut straight up. And this is just your basic haircut. So now I'm gonna take my next piece on the top, bring it straight up because I'm cutting it at a 90. Okay, so since I'm already on this side, I'm gonna work and do my side. Take about a 1/2 inch to, take about 1 inch subparting, just as long as I can see my guide. Remember, if I can't see my guide, I have too much hair. So I need to stop and repart it and take less hair. Okay, lay that over, and then I'm gonna take the rest of the hair on the bottom and bring it straight up. This is finally how I got this haircut when I was in the shop. I didn't get it till I was in the shop, but no one showed me. But then when my friend, my partner next to me did it, I just got it. So look at it, it's looking really nice. And so I'm gonna do the same to the other side. So I'm just gonna move this instead of moving the whole tripod. Hopefully you guys can see. Okay, can you guys see okay? So I'm doing the other side. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm bringing it straight up. I'm taking a piece of my previous guide, bringing it straight up, and make sure I can find my guide. My guide is underneath my fingers. I can see it. And so there we go. Then I lay it over, take my next piece, bring it straight up, make sure I can see my guide, because I'm doing a 180. I'm actually doing a 90 because I'm actually doing a 180. Never mind. I'm not gonna go there. Okay, and then my last subsection, one straight up, 180. Make sure to find your guide. There's not much to cut. Okay, so now I'm gonna recap. I did a 0. I prepared around the perimeter. I did a 0, established the length, and then I went back and made a guideline in the front, and then I did a 180 on the top and sides, and now I'm gonna go back and do my 90. And the way that I do my 90 is I start in the center. I create, because I'm doing the 90 and it creates shape. So I'm gonna start in the center, move all the other hair out of the way. If you need to clip it out of the way, clip it out of the way. Whatever you gotta do to maintain control of the hair. Okay? So I'm gonna clip this out of the way. And I'm starting in my mohawk section. It's about, and I'm gonna wet it because it's, okay, so remember, I'm doing a traveling guideline. I'm doing vertical subsections. I'm starting in the mohawk center, the center section, and it's to create shape. Okay, so I'm over here on this left side. I'm starting in the middle. So I'm gonna comb it down. And remember, I'm bringing it straight out from the head. But one thing I want to show you guys is that when I bring it out, you need to be really careful. Let me see if I turn it this way if it helps. Okay. So when I bring it out, you guys, when you're doing someone's hair like this, make sure that their hair drops out, because if they have fine hair, they're gonna have a hole there and they're gonna be mad, I promise. So I'm combing it out. So I'm going above, I'm starting it right above the occipital bone, and see how my, or right barely above the occipital bone, and see how my fingers are parallel from the head. So I lay my comb and then the fingers follow. And so I have that guide to that guide. So I'm holding it straight out from the head. 1, and then I'm gonna comb it, lay my fingers, and go in with the head shape. 2, comb it, lay my fingers, and I have that guide to that guide. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm at the top. Remember to go with the head shape. So straight out from the head, so just a little bit there. 3, and then make sure it blends to the top. And if it doesn't blend, make it blend, but it blends. So I did the center section. Now I'm gonna go to the left. So what I'm gonna do is, this is my guideline. It created shape. I made a 90 degree. And so the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take another slice, a vertical subsection, 1/2 inch to 1 inch, depending on the thickness of the hair. And I'm gonna turn her to the side. And I think I have too much hair. Let me take less hair. And if you need to clip the hair out of the way, that's no problem. So I'm gonna start, remember when you start cutting, start right above the occipital bone. Let the bottom hair fall out because that way you won't create a hole. So there's just very little there to cut. So lay the comb, fingers follow, center left. Oh, sorry, going straight up. So I'm to the left. So I'm gonna take the piece of guide that I already cut and I'm gonna get a new section of hair and then bring the guide over to the piece I'm cutting. And the piece of hair I'm cutting, remember, is straight out from the head. Oops, whoops. Okay, so I'm combing it out. See how I let the bottom drop out? We wanna let that bottom drop out because we don't wanna make a hole in her hair. So there's my guide under my fingers. Make sure I can see my guide. My fingers are parallel from the head. So I lay the comb, the piece of hair I'm cutting is straight out from the head. I lay the comb and the fingers follow. Lay the comb, and then go in with the curve of the head. And then just that one little hair. Okay, so I'm gonna continue to my left. I'm gonna make a slice, vertical subsection, slice. I'm gonna incorporate my previous guide, comb all the other hair out of the way. I'm gonna bring the guide over to the section I'm cutting. The section hair I'm cutting is straight out from the head. I'm gonna drop out that. And I have a guide here, I have a guide here, and I have a guide under my fingers. So I have 3 guides, I can see them. So I cut 1, lay the comb, fingers follow, make sure you go with the curve of the head. 2, lay the comb, fingers follow, make sure you go with the curve of the head. See how my fingers are parallel from the head? 1, 2, 3, and then blend. And if it's not blended, make it blend. Okay, so take the next piece on the side. And I'm going to hold it out. So we cut most of it already. See how this drops out? Make sure the hair drops out, or guess what? You're gonna have a big hole right here, and it's hard to fix. You can't fix it. You just have to cut the rest of the hair. So you do it on the doll head, that's one thing, but if you do it on your client, she's gonna be mad. 1, 2, there's only very little to cut there. 3, and then make sure it blends. Okay, and there's just 2 little hairs right there. Okay, so now I'm on the side of her head. And I'm gonna remember when I do the side, I'm gonna bring it back to the highest part of the ear. So I'm gonna use the guide behind the ear, and I'm gonna use, I can't turn it the other way or you guys won't be able to see. So let me make sure I part it right. So I'm gonna get a piece of guide from behind the ear, like that. And then I'm gonna get the front, and I'm gonna bring it back to the highest part of the ear. So see, I'm bringing this front just a little bit back. That way, when it falls, it usually falls pretty close to how it's gonna lay. So I'm gonna comb it back. See how my fingers are going with the curve of the head? See how I dropped off the hair? I have a guide here. I have a guide under here. And I have a guide here. And I'm only cutting between the first and second knuckle. 1, and then comb it back towards it just slightly. 1, 2, see how my fingers are parallel from the head, and then see where the corners are. 3, and then blend. And if it's not blended, make it blend. Okay, so I did this whole left side. So what you do to one side, you have to do the other. So I'm gonna go back over to my right. I'm gonna start in the center. I clip this out of the way so I can see where I'm at. And I'm gonna go ahead and wet her hair really quick. So here's my guideline, my center guideline, my mohawk guideline that created the shape of the haircut. So I'm going to use this guideline in the middle, and now I'm going to bring my hair over to the piece I'm cutting. So I'm going to get a piece of my guide from the mohawk section, from the center, and I'm gonna get a piece of hair that I have not cut. I'm standing directly in front of the section I'm cutting. I'm holding the hair out at a 90-degree haircut. Remember, I'm gonna comb the hair over to the section because now I'm going, and the section of hair that I'm cutting is straight out from the head. So I have a guide here, I have a guide here, and I have a guide there. So, and see how I let the bottom drop out? Okay, so there's all my 3 guides. I'm cutting this piece right here. The piece of hair I'm cutting is straight out from the head. 1, 2, going with the curve of the head, 3, and then to the top, blend. And it blends. If it doesn't blend, just make it blend. Okay, so and I'm going to continue to work towards my right. I'm going to get the piece of hair that I already cut, and then vertical subsection, I'm going to get a slice of hair that has not been cut. I'm going to bring the guide over to the piece of hair I'm cutting. The hair I'm cutting is straight out from the head. And then I'm find my guides. So I have a guide here, 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 and here. So make sure that my hand is parallel from the head. I'm going to cut 1. There's my guides. 2, 3, blend. Okay, and I'm just going to continue to work towards my right. So I'm going to slice the piece of hair that I already cut, and I'm going to get a piece of hair that has not been cut, comb the hair out of the way. I'm going to bring my guide over to the piece I'm cutting. The piece of hair I'm cutting is straight out from the head. And then there's my guide under my fingers. Cutting between the first and second knuckle. 1. So comb, transfer, cut, palm. 1, 2, 3, and then make sure you blend it. If it's not blended, make it blend. Okay. All right, so I have a couple more pieces on this right side. So I'm doing the piece behind the ear. And make sure you hold it straight out from the head. So you bring the guide over to the piece you're cutting. The piece of hair you're cutting is straight out from the head. Make sure you let that bottom drop out. If you don't let it drop out, it's going to have a hole. And I have a guide here. I have a guide under my fingers, and I have a guide there. So I'm going to cut 1, 2, going with the curve of the head, 3, and then blend. Okay, so now I'm on the side of my head. I'm almost done. Slice. Let's see, where am I at? Right here. So make sure I cut all this on the side of the head. Make sure you let that drop out. Remember, if you don't, okay, that's good. So now I'm on the front piece. So I'm remember the same thing I did to the left side. I'm going to do the right side. So I'm going to comb it back to the highest part of the ear, just this front piece. I'm going to slice it. Use a guide from behind the ear right here. And then I'm going to hold it out at a 90 degree. And then there's just very little to cut. But see how my hands are parallel from the head? I'm going to cut 1, 2, 3, and then blend. Okay, and if it's not blended, make it blend. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna cross check, remember? So we cut it vertical, so we're gonna go back and check it horizontal. And it's the same thing, center left back to the right. And I'm just gonna turn it around towards the camera so you guys can see. Cross check, and make sure that you check where the ears are. So, okay. So, I'm just gonna, however you wanna check it. I can move this out of the way so you can see. And then, so center, and then move this out of the way too. Center left. So make sure between the ears here, between the front hair and the back hair, that they're connected. So we're gonna cut center left, they're connected, and then back to the right. Okay, so that's what cross-checking looks like. Okay, good. And then take down the next section. you can just check like 3. You don't have to do a whole bunch. But just to get an idea, make sure that it's even. So, center, so, and then take out the side here. Center, left, back to the right. So that's cross-checking technique. Good. And then one more section that we're gonna cross-check. All right. So it's good. Maybe one little hair. Okay, so I'm gonna take all the clips out. Cross check here. My last section. There we go. There we go. A little bit right there. Just make sure it blends the front hair and the back hair. And then center left, and you're bringing it straight out from the head. Center left back to the right. And then we're gonna go back and we're gonna just check the front, make sure it's even and the sides are even. So it's super cute haircut. And then again, same thing. She can wear it back, feathered back like that. See how nice it looks feathered. She can wear it forward. She can wear some back, some forward. But before I stop the video, I want to check piece for piece in the front. So I always check it from the middle, so that way both pieces are the same on both sides. So I'm just going to stand in front, and I'm going to remember the hair before the ears. So all the hair before the ears looks like that. Looks like that. See? All the hair before the ears. You don't want to go back because that's when you get the back hair. So down, and then I'm just gonna make sure it looks good. Make sure you hold your fingers vertical so you don't get a square front. And the only reason why I know that is because I've done it. So same thing, standing in front of the section. I'm gonna get all the hair before the ears. Move that away. And then pay attention to the natural falling position and where the hair lives. And then, so there's a little bit right there, too much, so we're just gonna cut that off. And then I'm gonna check it piece for piece. So I get the same pieces in the front. So this piece and this piece, even. Second piece, this is all, I'm checking all the hair before the ears. 2, this looks just a tiny bit longer. See that one little piece right there? Look at that. And then 3 looks good. And so again, she can wear her hair however she wants. She could wear it in the middle. I guess middle part's in now. She could wear a side bang. She could wear the other side bang. And that's the 90-degree haircut.